Good afternoon, Dana.
Hello.
Can you start by telling us why you decided to become a teacher?
Yeah, so for me, it wasn't actually a lifestyle or a job that I planned for, but by luck, I happened to start tutoring and teaching sort of students, and after a little while, halfway through the year, I was teaching a group of very rowdy, very uninterested grade 10 boys, and I was trying to keep them in check, and I was trying to get them to focus, and halfway through, I realized that I was just having so much fun, even though this was technically a difficult lesson, and I just realized this was the place for me, and it was where I wanted to be, and I've just, all my time outside of work was taken up thinking about lesson plans and planning things, and I just realized I loved it.
Okay. Think about your last teaching practicum. Can you tell us about a lesson you taught that went well and why you thought it was so successful?
So I taught a group of grade 11s about the Iranian Revolution, and the focus of that lesson was getting them to understand the causes of revolutions and how they end up panning out and how people are convinced into revolution. And the thing that made that lesson particularly triumphant and exciting for me was that I had a lot of students in that class that were very shy, were not comfortable public speaking, and the focus of that lesson, in addition to the kind of historical aspect of revolution, was on public speaking. So we'd analyze these revolutionary speeches and try to isolate some of the strategies that they would use to get people on board with overthrowing the government. And the thing that made me incredibly happy about that lesson was, by the end, a lot of the students that had been terrified of public speaking, once they realized there was a kind of a format to it and a strategy to it, they became so comfortable with it by the end, and that was incredible for me. In addition to learning the history, they really gained that skill, and that was amazing.
Excellent. Okay, so following on from that, can you tell us what you feel are the characteristics of a good lesson?
Yeah, so number one, I'd say, would be it being well planned. So just everything kind of being planned out in advance, every lesson having a really specific place in the larger unit plan and whole, so they're not isolated or out of place. I'd say making sure that there's some kind of connection between the students and the material, so they feel invested in the material that they're learning, not just being given kind of facts that they don't care about or don't feel passionate about. Achievability, so making sure that the lesson can be achieved with those students and with that time frame, and not too much or too little, and just in the right kind of proximal zone of development for each kid. And then I'd say also making sure that I keep in mind when I'm planning what skills and what content I want to make sure that my students take away, and then working backwards from there to make sure that my units and my lessons are planned with that in mind, as opposed to them being sort of not catered towards what I want the students to actually learn from that lesson.
Okay, thank you. If I was talking to the teachers that you worked with on your teaching practicum, what would they say to me are your main attributes as a teacher?
So firstly, I'd say that they would talk about how passionate I am about teaching. So I know that I've bugged my teachers to no end. I spend all my lunch times and after school times asking them questions and just sort of bugging them about their experiences and trying to get as much as I can out of my experience there. I'm just kind of overwhelmed with and really excited with everything that I'm learning there. So that would be number one. I'd say just in terms of content, I'm incredibly passionate about my subjects. I have been for a very long time. So I was an English and political science major in university, and I did a lot of courses, obviously in English and history and geography. So I know what I'm teaching, and I feel very comfortable teaching what I'm teaching, which is great. I'd say creativity. So I try not to do the same lesson twice in any way. So just make sure that everything has as much diversity as possible when it comes to how I'm teaching students, so they remain engaged. I'm quite hardworking, so I hand everything in advance. I'm overly organized, almost to the point where I'm handing things in before they even need to be handed in. So that's kind of my personality. And also, I would just say, they'd say I'm relatively good at negotiating the balance between being empathetic and being an authority figure, which is difficult but very important. So, yeah.
Okay. And finally, what could you contribute to a school outside of the classroom?
So I'm very much of the mind that getting to know kids a lot of the times is very difficult in a classroom environment and is fostered so well outside of the class. So in sports, a lot of kids who are shyer in class don't necessarily want to partake in discussion. They go onto a football field and they're amazing and they're themselves there. And so being a part of those kinds of things, extracurricular activities, teams, is really important to me in terms of getting to know students. I'm also myself a debater. I was in high school, so in every school I'm in, I try to either find or create or help out with a debate team. Same with art. I'm a person who likes to draw. I'm not very good at it, but I like it. So I like to kind of join those kinds of artistic clubs, drama, drawing, those kinds of things, yeah.
Dana, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.